meeting of the Cameron County Commissioners Court, first meeting of the year. Welcome, everyone. As we do all meetings, we'll start with an invocation today by Chuck Sharrow, and then I'd like the whole court to lead us in the two pledges of allegiance. Chuck?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for a new year. Make decisions that will bring honor and glory to you and to serve justice and peace here in Cameron County. So we ask for wisdom, guidance, and strength for all the decisions that are made today, and I pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. The whole court could join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the sacred flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible. Thank you all. Unison. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Did anybody sign up for public comment? Either? Item number 2, which is the presentation by Godfrey Gatsa regarding the levee rehabilitation project in Hidalgo County. I had asked Mr. Gatsa to give us a presentation as to where Hidalgo County was on their project. He has called and he will not be able to make it today, so we're going to try to postpone it for the following week. Okay? So to make a present, and the reason that's important is because they started their levee rehab program back in 2005. And they passed a bond issue in 2006. So that's how this $100 million bond issue that came about is now in effect. So that's something that we may want to consider at some point in the future. But I would like for him to discuss that with us and kind of tell us what they're doing in Hidalgo County and why they're doing it. And so aside from that, do you want to say something about IBWC's presentation next week, or you want to wait till you speak to? You want to go ahead and do that? Wait for Godfrey. Godfrey's not going to come.
It's Sunday.
Next week. Oh, you want? Well, Godfrey's presentation next week will probably be after the presentation by IBWC, because they're going to do that in the morning. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, we were notified, I believe on Friday of last week, that IBWC Commissioner Carlos Marin was going to be in Cameron County, in Brownsville, next Tuesday, because apparently sometime next week, IBWC will start improving some of the levees in the Cameron County area. And that's as much information as we got from his staff. So really don't know to what extent they are planning on improving the levees in the county, or if they're planning on improving all the areas where they had previously done a study and a recommendation was made that in those areas, improvements to the levee were needed. I have sent a request for information to Mr. Marin, to Commissioner Marin, and asked specifically what will be announced next Tuesday and what type of improvements he's planning on undertaking. Again, he hasn't responded to my request, but as soon as he does, we'll forward that to Commissioner's Court. But he is planning on having some type of press conference next Tuesday at 10 o'clock here at the Commissioner's Courtroom. So we'll keep the court abreast. As soon as we get additional details, we'll forward those to the court. Once we do that, once we know specifically what IBWC plans on doing, we will have to develop some type of plan on how or on what options the county will have to move forward. Being that Hidalgo County is ahead of us on their levee rehab and in working with DHS. We'll have to see what IBWC has in mind and then get with DHS and then develop a plan of action as to how we can proceed and provide several options to the courts that we can consider. So in all likelihood, we might have an action item next week for the court to consider, some of the options that we might we might be able to recommend to you all.
Okay. I spoke to Judge Salinas yesterday, and we're tentatively scheduling another meeting to DC at the end of January to continue with this levy issue, so, okay, thanks, Pete. I did just get a late public comment form. Mr. Javier Gonzalez. Javier, are you here?
Good evening, County Judge and County Commissioners. My name is Javier Gonzalez, and I'm running as a candidate for the 444th Judicial District Court here in Cameron County. I'm from Brownsville, born and raised here in the county. I came up here today because I wanted, first of all, just to first wish you all a Happy New Year. I think you all are doing a very good job. I'd like to see the court, the commission, to continue working together as a group, further in the business for Cameron County. I think you all are doing a great job, each and every one of you. And I'd like to thank you all for the time that you've taken to serve on this county commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Javier. Good luck.
Thank you.
Consent items. Are there any items on the consent or travel items any member of the court wish to address separately?
I had one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's see if I can gather my thoughts here.
I got 18.
17.
Okay, I've been asked to pull out and discuss separately item 17 having to deal with the time extension from December 31st of '07 to December 31st of '08 on Resaca View Estates subdivision. That will be discussed separately. Item 18 having to do with a contract for deputies to work overtime on highway drug interdiction and bridge outbound detail. Any other items? On travel, is there any items on travel? We also have a supplemental consent item. If we could take that up as well. Consideration and authorization for renewal contract for South Texas Partnership, Southwest Border High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area known as HIDTA for year 2008. David?
I just wanted to address the agenda item. It's a travel item, 21A. And it's the agenda item that reads to allow the commissioners and the administrators to attend the Texas Department of Transportation I-69 Trans-Texas Corridor town hall meetings and public hearings. Just want to make sure that everyone's aware of how important these meetings are.
Isn't there one that's being held here at the Brownsville Event Center
Yes, sir.
also? Okay.
Yes. And these meetings are going to be held in January and February, and encourage not only you all but everybody else to attend in the area to make sure that our voice is heard. And
I know
our
that we've
concerns
seen
are-
it, but if you just for our sake, can you give us another time frame schedule to everybody on the court, anybody wishing to attend? Obviously let us know, maybe we can go together or something.
We'll send that out to everybody.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other item to discuss separately?
We had gotten that on email, right? Yeah, okay.
Okay. Hearing and sensing none, do I hear a motion to approve the consent items and the travel items 21A through 21E with the exception of items 17 and 18 and adding consent item number 1 on the supplemental agenda? Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. I'm going to do something a little bit different. Let's go and we'll hold off on the executive session item and have that be the last thing that we discussed today. Let's go to item 17, consideration approval of time extension from December 31st of '07 to December 31st of '08 for providing sewer facilities, septic systems at Resaca View Estates, subdivision Phase 1. Mr. Hinojosa.
Yes, sir. Commissioner, do you have?
I think Commissioner Tamayo
had a
had the
question.
question.
You had a question? Okay.
What precinct is that, or did I miss that?
Let me
It's
see.
not on here, is it? What precinct is it in?
Don't have it here.
Resaca View Estate.
Normally, we put the precinct number in there, but I don't have.
Where's it at? Do you know?
Resaca View Estates subdivision. I'll be honest with you, Judge, I don't know. Exactly, we don't have a map, we normally don't put any maps or site location maps for
Well,
this type of extension,
I'll be
but,
satisfied if you just
but I can
give me a
check
call
with,
or email
Alex.
me and let me know.
Yes, ma'am, I can check
Because
with
I try and
Alex.
keep up with the ones that are in our precinct, and I think you know why,
Sure.
to
And,
keep
and
up with.
we'll do that next time, I think we'll put, we normally haven't put
Oh,
the,
yes,
precinct
okay.
numbers, but,
I didn't have
we'll
time
be
to
glad
call
to do
and
that.
ask you that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
most of them in this agenda did not have the precinct,
Okay,
besides that one.
all right, then, yeah.
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 But not for extensions.
For extension time, we never done it, but we can do it if you all like to do that, we can do that on the next,
In the future,
in the future.
Thank you, Ernesto.
do I hear a motion to approve item 17? And just make sure that you get that information to Commissioner Tamayo.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Tamayo. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item 18, consideration approval of a contract for deputies to work overtime on highway drug interdiction and bridge outbound detail for U.S. Customs Enforcement, immigration, with the reimbursement of expenses.
I had a question on that, Judge. Is this going to be somehow coordinated with the detail that we have out there now?
That's a good question, and I don't know.
Because we have a detail that works outbound already,
That's correct.
and I don't know if you can have duplication of effort, probably not, but I'm just wondering.
Just so it's coordinated, I guess.
Good evening, Happy New Year,
Thank you.
Judge, Commissioners. I'm Deputy Cabrera Salvador with the Precinct 2. We went to a meeting with the U.S. Customs and they offered this contract for overtime and for our participation with their task force on highway interdiction and on the outbound bridge inspections, on currency.
We're talking about southbound
Yes,
surveillance. Are we talking about all the bridges or just the B&M or Los Indios? Because the two bridges that are really not covered,
It
Or Los Indios.
alternates. Sometimes you're at the Tomates Bridge, sometimes you're at the Veterans, sometimes you're at the old bridge, sometimes you're at the new bridge.
but if you have, and I support the effort, believe me, if we have like we're supposed to have, a full-time surveillance from the sheriff's office at the Los Tomates, the Veterans Bridge, and the Gateway Bridge.
When they're there, we don't participate there.
Okay, well, they're supposed to be there all the time.
When there's nobody at that location, then we're posted there. There's a supervisor from Customs and might be 2 or 3 officers from us.
Okay, but let me go back, but how do you know, let's talk about the Veterans Bridge and the Gateway Bridge. How do you know if there's not going to be a sheriff's detail there?
They're the ones that inform us.
Who's they?
ICE, U.S. Customs, they never inform us where we're going to be at or what we're going to be practicing. We're just supporting them as extra hands, you could say. And they just alternate. They're never at the same place. It might be at 30 minutes over here, then 30 minutes over there, and then an hour over here, or...
And by
15
they, you're referring to customs?
Yes.
No,
The inspections that we're going to be doing, it's going to be alternated. We're never going to know where we're going to be at, how many hours we're going to be there. It's just on demand.
So this is a joint effort that you'll be working in conjunction with them, alongside them?
Yes.
Well,
but
they will also have
the command will be them.
They'll also have a presence
But
there
if we
when you're there.
confiscate or find any currency or whatever, it's going to be shared with you.
Shared,
Okay.
yeah.
Whatever we find is going to be shared between them and us, or the county.
Let me ask you something. Do you know whether or not ICE has contacted the sheriff's department to see if they're going to be also working alongside with them?
No, ma'am.
You don't know?
As far as I know, Precinct 6 was working it. I don't know if they're doing it at this time. I do know that they had to turn in their new rates for overtime in order to apply again to be called.
Okay.
They won't be called until they turn in that information. But it's not a set hours or a set schedule. It's just on a backup call.
I see.
They'll call the constables, that we need 2 officers, or I need 6, but we only have 2 available. They'll get another precinct or another police department and get the people from them in order to build up the amount of people they need for that surveillance.
And who's ultimately responsible for the tracking of the time that you're spending there?
Actually, I'm gonna be,
Pardon?
I'm gonna be responsible for that, because at the end of every officer that works, it's a 24-hour turn-in, slip, so I'm gonna have to email the contact that we have in customs every day, if we work every day. There's no set schedule, so, I worked this when I was working Los Frenos a couple of months ago, and if I got called maybe for 16 hours, that was about it in the whole year, last year. But, if there's enough time for them to offer us, we could earn up to $1,140 within the year. We cannot go over that, because that's what they have separated for each officer. There's 7 officers in our department. That's what we could earn. So we're just asking for your approval and consideration, and for us to try to earn that and be available for that, the overtime.
Yeah, I think, and it's Constable, it's a good idea, but I think well, let me speak for me. My apprehension is that if you've got 8 or 9 folks at the Veterans Bridge and the Gateway Bridge, and B&M is unmanned, and Los Indios Bridge is unmanned, you may want to check with ICE and see if at all possible they can somehow utilize you at those locations instead. I mean, I just don't see having the ICE folks there, having you all there, deputy sheriffs there at the Gateway Bridge. I mean, 6 or 7 people, basically trying to do this, or attempting to do the same thing.
Well, Sheriff's Department have a schedule. They're there certain hours.
No, they're supposed to be there full-time.
Full-time.
Well, they're supposed to be, okay, and I think they are there full-time now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so it's a good project, I mean, but
their contract is kind of different. We're gonna be with ICE, looking for drugs, looking for currency, looking for weapons. And if we do highway interdiction, we're gonna be on our own. We're gonna be doing traffic stop to see what we find, stolen vehicles or whatever. All of those are gonna be confiscated, and they'll come down, and they're already paid for, they'll be sold, and that currency is gonna come into the general funds of the county. That's what we're also looking for, not just our overtime, but we're trying to get currency for the county.
I'm just trying to get it's a good concept. I don't know if you all got the article that I emailed to you all from the El Paso Times a week or so ago, that they've started southbound surveillance using border security money that we allocated. But they've been strictly auto theft. They're doing the same thing that you're doing, but it's the local PD that's doing it in El Paso. And it's a good idea. I'm just saying, if they're calling you to go to the 2 bridges that we already have, full-time surveillance, that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense if they're leaving the B&M Bridge without surveillance, or the Los Indios Bridge without surveillance.
We're not just gonna be permanent in one location. The idea is to catch off guard. If they know you're there, they're not gonna go through there. So it's gotta be a spur of a moment, go install, check a couple of cars, they're gonna go to another bridge, so you alternate to the other bridge and try to catch them over there.
Yeah, but by the time you get there, they're gonna be through the bridge. I mean, look, these guys are smart. I mean, they're gonna go to the bridge, it's not manned. I mean, that's what they're doing.
Odds, you can catch them here or you can catch them over there.
Okay.
But, everybody's got the advantage of a cell phone, so, hey, I see them over here. So everybody starts going to the
I'll tell you what, if it's any comfort, I understand what you're saying, but then again, I just want to make sure that all bridges are covered, and right now, we don't have that. If you could have the head of the, who are you all dealing with?
Raul Garcia. He's ICE,
just have him give us a call, or have him give me a call, maybe we can do something. I much prefer it's a great project, but it's not going to make any sense if you got 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 people at 1 or 2 bridges, and the other bridges are not manned. And that's all I'm suggesting to you. So if they can do something like that, I think, you get your shot at it, and I think everybody is okay with that. Unless you all have something different that you all want to.
No,
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve it.
A second.
Okay,
I support it too. I just wanted to know what kind of coordination was gonna exist between the agencies so that we could have broader coverage. I think it's a great idea.
We're gonna alternate, so we could be at the bridge or we could be on the highway.
Yeah.
Maybe at Combs level, catch everything that's coming in and whatever's going out. If they missed it over here at the first or secondary level, we might catch it at the third.
Well, have him give me a call anyway. I'd like to visit with you.
I'll have them call you.
Please, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moved by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Benavides. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries.
Just one item in the executive session.
Yeah. You want to get rid of the regular agenda first? Item 24, budget amendments, line item transfers and/or salary schedules. Javier?
Judge and Commissioners, within your packets, there was included some line item transfers and also some budget amendments, excuse me, and one salary schedule pertaining to setting up the grant program that's listed there in the budget amendments. I don't know if you have any specific questions.
Anybody have any questions on the budget amendments, line item transfers and/or salary schedules? Do I hear a motion to approve?
So, second.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Gatsa. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 25, approval of claims. There's some extra claims that were passed out as well. Anybody have any concerns or questions on the claims?
I just had a question on one. I just wanted some clarification on, gosh, these aren't numbered, but it's check number 00193514. Is there anyone here that? We don't have anyone here from the department? Well, I'm
Would
fine.
you want to table that particular check? That,
Well, I hate to do that. It might have been misspelled words or something, but it just doesn't make sense to me.
which one is it?
It's 00193514, and the fund is 450, and the department is 5708.
Who's it payable to?
Let's see, here's the Wells Fargo Financial Leasing. Vendor's name. It's probably a misspelled word. I hate to hold up the payment, but for my own good, I'll call them in the morning. But I think we should have representation from that department at every meeting.
I'll get with the auditor in the morning, Commissioner, and I'll get that information for you.
Pardon?
I'll get with the auditor in the morning and get that information for you.
Okay, thank you. No, I don't want to pull it out.
Okay, one more thing, just, when you do contact the auditor's office, make sure that they change the name of the contact person on the agenda request form. Do I hear a motion to approve all county claims as presented?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo. Any further discussion? Please note my abstention on the affidavits, the 2 from last week and then the 4 this week to Los Fresnos School District, Brownsville School District, PUB, and Harlingen Waterworks. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 26, approval of minutes for December the 11th, 2007, December the 18th, 2007, December 28th, 2007. Have the court members had the opportunity to review the minutes?
I have, I don't know if there was.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Motion
By
for
Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 27, consideration appointment of the Judge Pro Tem. We did this last year. Commissioner Gatsa was named Judge Pro Tem. I thought you've done a good job, Commissioner. Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, he's done a good job. How long have you been in that position? Only 1 year?
1 year.
Okay. Motion for Commissioner Garza.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Tamayo to appoint Commissioner Gatsa Judge Pro Tem. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Benavides. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 28, consideration approval of meeting time for Cameron County Commissioners Court regular meetings. As you know, we started meeting at 5:30 last year. It appears to be a comfortable time for everyone, except for certain people of the press. But I'd like to continue having the meetings on Tuesdays at 5:30, with the only exception of what we're doing today, moving the executive session to the very end. That way, those folks that need to scoot out and write their stories or do whatever they got to do don't have to wait till we're through with the executive session. That'd be the only change to the way the
Well, but on
format
the
of the
other hand,
agenda.
and I can see your point in that, and I understand. But, you know, the public likes it because a lot of people get out of work, and if we have executive session first, that gives them a chance to get here.
Yeah, but we don't have it first. Unless y'all want to move it to the very front, we can do that. But the way it is right now, it's kind of like in the middle. We do
never
the,
know.
But even
We
that
never know how much
helps
it's gonna,
them.
how long it's gonna take, unless we moved it to like 4 o'clock or 4:30. Generally, it doesn't take more than an hour, and then start the regular session at 5:30. Because we've got county employees sitting here that, you know, have been at work at least since 8 o'clock, some of them before that time, and some of them are exempt employees, and some of them probably are not exempt employees, and I'm not sure how we're compensating the ones that are not exempt employees when they're here. Right now, it looks like all of them that are here are probably exempt employees, but,
That's
you know,
not a
they've got
bad
families
idea.
also.
That's not a bad idea, having the executive session earlier, I mean, starting earlier.
And we
to-
can always recess until 5:30, and then take care of the business and act on executive session items.
really,
at that time.
it's whatever y'all want to do. It's
I
fine
think
with me.
that would be a good
Doesn't
idea.
matter to me. However y'all want to do it.
I just have gotten a lot of feedback from the public that they like the fact that they can get here,
Get here at 5:30.
be
You know-
here and participate, and I think it's been wonderful. I believe we've had more participation because of that.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I don't see a whole lot more participation now than we had when it was at 10 o'clock.
Well,
You know, when people are involved
I have
with it,
had from my
then,
precinct,
you know.
definitely, from
Yeah,
precinct
but-
4,
But what you don't see is 90% of the audience being county employees either.
exactly.
And so, I mean, that's the balance. I mean, normally, I think the people that are here are because they either want to be here, or they have an agenda item that's important enough for them to be here. But normally, when you have them at 9:30 in the morning, you know, half the audience was county employees that just come and just sit for a couple
And-
hours and watch the meeting, when they ought to be.
And right now, we have
working.
1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 that are not county employees. Everyone else is a county employee sitting out here.
But they
Because
have,
they
By the
don't
same
have
token,
something
Judge,
that
you also
affects
have-
them on the agenda, you know.
but they have the opportunity, if they want to be here, to be here. And if it's in the morning, if they wanted to be here, that they might have to, they being the general public, might have to take time away from their work schedule.
Let's try a 4 o'clock
No.
executive session
I've got no problem with that.
timeline, and then
Yeah, that's
begin the
fine.
meeting at 5:30 and get it over with.
You can,
Whatever y'all wanna do.
that's fine with me, the executive session first, earlier if you like, and then we
Earlier.
start the regular meeting at 5:30. I just, like I said, John, I guess I'm looking at my own turf.
And it's a long way from,
And it's a long
Yeah.
ways, and I have had more participation from that precinct, which is so far away. I think it's, well,
as
you
far
all
as
have
it can
some
be.
too, Sophie has some people coming from a long ways, but even if it's one person participating, John, that has not participated before, it's worth the effort. So,
We have 4, 4:30, 5, 5:30. You want to compromise and shoot at 5 o'clock? We start executive sessions
Start
at
executive at 5, that
5
sounds
o'clock.
okay.
We're done
Yeah.
by hopefully 5:30, 5:45, then the regular meeting gets started at that time. That's a pretty
fine.
good compromise. Is that all right?
Okay.
start the meeting at 5 and get executive session over with.
Yeah, we can
And
do
then go
that.
into the regular
And go into the regular
Sure.
meeting at 5:30.
All right, okay.
Okay,
That's good.
motion for 5 o'clock.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Tamayo to begin the new and improved meetings at 5 o'clock, Tuesday, I assume? Tuesday, and then we'll schedule it to where we have executive session up front, okay? That was a motion by Commissioner Tamayo, second by?
Second.
Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item carries. Item 29, consideration and action to execute a drainage easement agreement for the future installation of underground stormwater outfall line from Reynolds Road, Precinct 4, to the Arroyo, Colorado.
Judge and Commissioners, this is a conveyance of a 30-foot drainage easement for the purpose of installing a future stormwater line, underground line, outfall line, for the immediate area of Reynolds Road. As you know, we had, in the past, had flooding problems in that area.
Is that the Rio Hondo area?
Yes.
That we
Yes, sir.
keep talking about with that gentleman?
So that's,
Okay, so we're finally gonna be able to help him
We've had a
out.
problem there for
I think
years.
this,
At least. And that's, I want to compliment you, because you have done an excellent job dealing with a population out there that has this concern and showing extreme patience, and I appreciate it. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Thank you, Commissioner. And so I think this is a way to look at solving potentially that problem that we have there. It's going to take some funding to do that, but we have 5 years in the agreement to do that. If it doesn't happen to be done within the 5 years, then it reverts back.
You're talking about running the line from that road, I guess, across the street from this individual's home?
Right, across Reynolds Road.
Right, and it takes you all the way down by that plant that's there?
Exactly.
Okay, and then it goes straight into the arroyo?
Into the arroyo.
Okay, well, that's been going on for years, I remember, so.
And so that will collect all the water there and discharge it onto the.
All right. Does that gentleman, the family, do they know that we're gonna be doing this?
No, not at this time, but unless, it's an easement, it's not the.
Not the actual work.
Yeah, but still, I mean, he's also been very patient, and I think he needs to know that we have not forgotten about him, and that the commissioner, has worked, and you all have worked to make sure that has happened. He's had this problem for decades, I know.
This would allow the Drainage District Number 3, in the future, the ability to do that.
Okay, I think it's a good idea to let him know that's gonna happen, okay?
And that's the intent. With this easement, Drainage District Number 3 will help and facilitate in the process when they can.
Yeah,
Correct.
and you've represented us well, not just with the people out there, and mainly the gentleman that has the biggest concern, but also with the district, with the drainage district, so thank you.
Just for the record, item number 13 of the agreement will be struck out, as recommended by legal, and we recommend approval.
All right, thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Gatz. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 30, consideration authorization to hold a public hearing to review and consider an application/petition by residents of Olmito, Texas, with respect to a certain subdivision plat within the Olmito town site filed on or before March 10th, 1930. David?
Judge, Commissioners, this is an item that we've been working on for quite some time.
Since 1930,
Last year, we, through legislation, in the help of Commissioner Wood, we were able to pass legislation to try to fix the problem that we're having in the Olmito area with regards to maps, subdivision maps. Currently, there's subdivision maps that are identified using grove site areas instead of the lot and block traditional way. And so a lot of the residents of that area are having trouble having developed the area that they own. And so this legislation will allow for them to be able to change it back to the original description. We did notice this in the newspaper more than 3 weeks ago, so we did that, and I believe there's some people in the audience here that are affected by this and are going to be able to talk a little bit about the issue.
Do we need a motion to go into hearing?
We need to open the public hearing.
That's what we're going to do first?
Yeah, I thought we'd done that.
We did already?
Motion to open it, but we...
Okay, we are in a public hearing.
Okay.
I thought we'd already done that, but okay. Is anybody from the audience here like to address that?
There are some folks in the audience, Judge. I don't know if they particularly are interested in making anything particular. I think we have been familiar with it for a long time, as they have. If there's any issues or questions about it, I'll be glad to try to answer them, along with David. This recreates the lot and block situation that was originally formed in Olmito, and then a few years later, changed back to groves for some reason, and all these years have been being sold technically illegally, and permits have been issued to certain people, and then when we found out that they were technically illegal about 4 years ago, we discontinued issuing permits, and people still want to build out there on the lot and blocks that they've purchased, some of them many years ago. And the legislature approved our ability to revert back to the original subdivision. And that's basically what this accomplishes. That way, everyone who's built out there ends up being in compliance with the law and compliance with the subdivision rules and regulations, including utility companies who have utilities and lines in areas that technically they're probably not supposed to have them.
Okay, any comment from any member of the public? Do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Tamayo. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item 31, consideration and authorization to adopt an order accepting cancellation and reestablishment of a certain subdivision plat within the Olmito Town Site filed on or before March 10th, 1930. Do I hear a motion to approve the order?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Tamayo. Any further discussion?
One question. On legal, is there any legal ramifications that any of the individuals that have built in a grove versus a lot will encounter?
They should not, Commissioner, because when they built, they were probably grandfathered in and nobody said anything at the time, and now that this has been ordered by the court, the descriptions of the properties go back to the block and lots, and they're going to be in compliance again anyway.
I just don't want to
They should be all right.
I just don't want to end up with individuals coming to us saying, you know, I built on this lot or this grove, and now I don't own it.
What they did was they built on lots and blocks, which were not legal, but they were on the old map, and now this makes them legal.
Okay,
So the ones that are there, that are,
It's going to
and I keep
be-
using the word technically
Okay.
illegal, or technically illegal, and this corrects all that problem.
Okay, so that's going to correct the
It
problem.
corrects the problem.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item 32, consideration approval of the early voting polling locations for the Democratic primary and Republican primary elections of March 4th, 2008, and setting the compensation rates. Roger?
Roger, what we had in our, with our agenda is the latest? I mean, this is the one?
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. Yes, what I submitted to you on your agenda is the latest that I have right now. I have received some calls, though, in requests or concerns. One was a suggestion about the Christ the King location that we've been using to change that to the police station. I believe that that was a request, possible change by Commissioner's Court. The other one was a call I had, a concerned member of Valley Interfaith called about opening up a early voting location at Holy Family Church on a Sunday, which we have done before in some other elections. And also had a concern by the Democratic Party about the location at South Padre Island, since we have one in Port Isabel, and that location in Port Isabel goes for 2 weeks. The one at South Padre Island, I was suggesting that we have one for 1 week over there. The South Padre Island location, we've had the mayor, we've had other interested people in the area of South Padre Island asking us to have one there, and we've had some early voting locations there in the past, but not recently. And so, since we've got 4 other locations which are 1 week locations, and they are in the northern and southern or middle part of the county, I didn't have one in the eastern part of it, and I thought, well, why not put one there? But the concern was low voter turnout there, and that we've already got one in Port Isabel. That was a concern there.
Have you talked to the leadership at the island as to whether they're all right with having a location in Port Isabel and not at South Padre Island, or does it really matter to them?
They have brought that concern up before.
They have?
Yes, it's saying
That there is no location at the island, or what?
there's no location at the island, even though they can drive to Port Isabel. The drive to Port Isabel from the island to Port Isabel, they say, sometimes for some people may be a little far. It's within the distance required by the code, but nevertheless, there's people would like to have it there closer, I guess.
I would.
I can't.
Excuse me, I would think that. I would think that.
Okay, John, you go first.
Okay. If we're going to add an additional location in precinct 1, as opposed to the island, because in general, and I may be incorrect in my perception, but in general, I seem to feel like that the folks on the island have the ability to travel to Port Isabel to vote.
Yeah.
You know, if they're gonna go to Walmart, they gotta go right by the voting location. If they're gonna go to the H-E-B, they've gotta go right by the voting location. Whereas if we wanted to add another, precinct for voting, for early voting, we might take a look at putting it in a part of Southmost, which would still be in Precinct 1, where people generally are disenfranchised because of their sheer inability financially to be able to have access and be able to travel to the current early voting locations that we have, even though we do have one at Christ the King. And I'll go ahead and say that I feel like Christ the King is an appropriate place to put it and not be moving it, because people do get used to voting in a particular area. And I know I've seen in the past where people, when they go to a polling place that they're used to going to, and there's a sign there that says, you don't vote here, you vote X, Y, Z, a lot of them don't follow and go to that next location, they just don't vote. And we've established a pattern at Christ the King, and I feel like that it has adequate parking, plenty room, we don't have any problems there. It seems to me to be a better location than the Southmost Network Center that the police department has in Southmost. But those are, you know, I guess I'm addressing both of those issues at one time.
Yeah, the other suggestion was was having one at, if I remember correctly, it was Valle Escondido.
Yes, at the Social Service Center. I have about 6,200 registered voters just in 3 precincts alone, Roger. And that concerns me, because those are the ones that may not have the privilege of driving all the way into the Southmost area. And so I would like, if you're going to consider putting one right next to each other at the island and Port Isabel, then I would certainly want one out at the Cameron County Social Service Center.
Roger, that was a red flag for me. Now, let me just double check. So Christ the King Catholic Church is one of the places? Okay, because I got a call from Brownsville saying that had changed. So you're telling me that it is one of them?
Yes.
Okay. And I know that in the Brownsville area, there's probably more votes. But even looking at my area, even that, I feel that there's some areas, I have a big area in my precinct, and they're all going to have to either go to La Feria or Harlingen or Los Fresnos.
Or La Paloma.
Or La Paloma, yeah, but I'm looking at this, well, my precinct is so huge, Santa Rosa, Combs, Primera, I'm sorry, I can't see, and I'm with Commissioner Benavides. I feel that the people in Padre Island definitely have the ability of being able to get to Port Isabel. And there's other areas that have more of a need, in my opinion.
Haven't you had one in Santa Rosa in the past, Roger?
We've had Santa Rosa, we've had some in Santa Maria.
Was there a reason why that was taken off?
Well, I'm working with the equipment that we've got and the budget that we have. And the equipment right now that we have on the laptops, we're down to possibly 2 more laptops to use in a location where both parties would be in an early voting location. And so, I mean, we could add or change or move. That's no problem with me. We'll work it out. But I would hate to...
Hey, Roger, speaking on the mic, because I'm
sorry.
I think he's sick, and that's why he really...
I'm sorry?
You're probably straining your voice since you've been ill.
I mean, like I was saying, we've got possibly an additional 2 laptops that we can program to use at additional sites, or we can have the sites moved from their location right now. I mean, it's up to Commissioner's Court. I could I could work either way. Now, if we as Commissioners Court would want to move the locations or add locations, we'll work with it, and we've done that in the past.
But Roger, I think if you're dealing with a budget, then you should be able to be comfortable with dealing with a finite budget. In other words, it can't be, well, we want to add another 25 locations. I mean, your budget's not going to allow for it. And obviously that, you know what that number is. And the idea is I'll try to get it to the best location where you get the most voter participation, to come out, whether it's Christ the King or the Holy wherever it is. I mean, it doesn't matter.
That's correct.
But I'm saying, you've got numbers that back up all this stuff. I tend to agree that the island folks, have a lot easier way of getting to Port Isabel than, let's say, Port Isabel people getting over to the island, okay? But at the same time, I think as a courtesy, if there's been a South Padre Island location over the last several primaries or general election, there hasn't? I see Jerry nodding his head. I don't know what that means.
Not early voting.
The locations that we've had there have been for Election Day.
Okay, well then let me ask you a question. If these are strictly early voting locations, then tell me which ones are new as compared to the primary locations of a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Just tell me which ones are the new ones that you've added, and why you've added them, and which ones did you take off from the last primary, the '06 to today.
Okay. Basically, the newer ones are the ones that are 1 week locations, because you've got the one in La Paloma. That's a brand new school, and it's right on the highway, and we were using the elementary school, which was about 3 or 4 blocks into La Paloma. That one is almost in the middle of if you take Military Highway in the middle of the county.
That's what I was going to say, that'll cover.
Yes.
Okay, you eliminated one to add this one, so you're replacing it?
We're putting a 1 week location there so we can have.
You used to use La Paloma
Elementary.
which was a few blocks in from the road.
So
Riverside is right on.
Right on the road. So it's not really changing the location, the general location. It's just a matter of putting, which is, I agree with you, middle school is right on 281.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other one is the South Padre Island location. We've used the university in Texas Southern College before.
Excuse me. The difference there, though, with South Padre Island, it's a new location.
Yes.
Completely. La Paloma is not a new location.
My concern is not necessarily who lives there or where they can get to, but that precinct is one voting precinct, right? Yeah. It's just like one voting precinct.
Correct.
Okay, all the other areas are centered around areas that have numerous voting precincts associated with it. So it appears to me that we're selectively putting a voting place right in the middle of one precinct. I have a concern with that.
Okay.
What I would like to see, and this is the discussion part, I don't know the area in Brownsville, most likely they have more votes than any other area. Mine is so rural that it's a big area in size, but perhaps not population. I'm for not having it at Padre Island, and you, Roger, know the numbers and go with where there's the most people that vote and accommodate them.
Well, that's we always try to do that. The department always tries to do that, and this suggestion was placed in there because of the fact that they had been after that location to be open for some time.
I would suggest that the South Padre Island location be relocated to the Southmost Service Center. I think we'll have a better turnout, and will allow for the folks in that area to be able to access the voting much easier.
Where's the Southmost Service Center?
On South Brownie Road, around about 12 different colonias in that area.
That sounds...
Where they have no bus service, they have no...
There's a big population.
You have the Palm Grove people that could vote there, and the people from, we have 2 voting precincts at El Jardín, 14 and 82.
others in that general area.
Yeah, in that area that could probably go.
And people are
I would like to
coming
keep
that area.
Christ the King voting precinct and just leave it alone.
Yeah, the only calls that I got
No, I was...
today was on the, adding some time to having it at the municipal building, on South Coast. The police department building is adding it to it. Okay, not necessarily eliminating Christ the King, but adding another location. So I'm just wondering if it'd be all right, maybe using Christ the King as a primary source, but since we've eliminated South Padre Island Precinct 1 on that day, is adding the PD for that week.
The problem, or
Wait,
what I
about
see with
what?
that is you're only talking about 4 or 5 blocks apart.
Yeah.
Whereas if you move it down to the southmost service center, you're talking about several miles
Yeah.
distance and providing an ability and the location for people in that neighborhood to be able to get out and vote.
Do we have to approve this today?
I would like to get it approved today because I need to get my orders in for ballots and so forth.
So if
Unless-
that change is made to that location, it would be okay?
I'm sorry,
If
Commissioner.
the change that John suggested
Move
is
South Padre
included,
to the southmost service center and leave Christ the King where it is. And, you know, if you've got something better than what you talked about as far as the Riverside Middle School, but maybe
Oh,
that's
no,
really
that's...
No, I think they want that there.
I wanted to clarify something. I wanted to make sure that Christ the King was a location.
Yeah.
I want to make sure you know that.
Yes,
stay
ma'am.
there.
We want it there.
There's one
That is
change.
needed there.
Yes.
In San Benito, there is a change though, because it was at the city hall in the past, and now it's at the community building, which is more accessible and
Yeah, we've used the community building before, and it has a lot, you know, it's accessible to the voters.
But it's still in the location which,
Yeah.
needs to be.
General location.
Okay.
All right, so let me hear a motion then.
I move we approve them with the change that Commissioner Wood suggested for that week in which we eliminate South Padre City Hall
And add,
and add John's location.
Southmost service
And
center.
replace it.
Southmost Service Center.
Service center. On Brownie Road.
all right, I had a motion by Commissioner Gatsa. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tamayo. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item 33, consideration,
Sorry,
oh,
but there's 2 parts to that one. We've got...
you talking about the wages?
compensation. Yes,
Well,
It was included in the
I'm assuming that was
motion.
included in the motion.
thank you.
All right,
Your
okay.
recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Really?
But just, hold on, Roger, real quick. Why is it that this compensation doesn't, follow our $8 minimum compensation for county employees? Because he just temps?
They're all temps.
Okay, all right, thanks. Item 33, consideration authorization to approve agreement with La Cuesta Sol Development Limited for the donation of 20.06 acres out of Share W Tract N of Carlos Cepeda Partition and El Ranchito. Javier.
Judge, Commissioners, this item we've I brought before the court in executive session. This is a property that's along Military Highway that we're looking at purchasing. And La Cuesta Soul Development has, in exchange for the construction of the road, wants to donate the land for a park.
20.6.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion for approval.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 34, consideration and authorization to accept the donation of 20.06 acres from La Cuesta Soul Development Limited for the development of a community park in El Ranchito. Do I hear a motion to approve? Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Gatsa. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 35, discussion and possible action regarding the county, state, and federal legislative agenda.
Judge, Commissioners, the only things we talked a little about the levy issue earlier in the agenda item presentation by Mr. Godfrey Garza. The other issue with respect to levies is, we're gonna bring it forward probably next week is there is legislation that was introduced by Congressman Hinojosa that will allow local entities to recapture funds that they use, local funds that they use for levy projects. He introduced that legislation about 3 weeks ago, right before they adjourned, and we're working on the resolution to support that. That'll hopefully help us, as we look for ways to try to finance this levy project that we're working on. We're gonna start looking at our projects for this coming year, the month of January, so I know Commissioner Tamayo has given me some projects already, sometime last year, and if there's any other projects that you all have that, would be interested in looking at trying to get some federal funds, we're gonna start working on that in January and hopefully have that list put together by the end of January in time for, February so that we can start, filling out all the forms that we need to fill out. And that's all I had.
David, I would like to ask you something. I know that TxDOT cut our funding, and what is there out there? What other sources are out there to continue our projects? Do you know of any?
There are some. We're looking at that. In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow with some of our consultants to look at several financing options. The one that comes to mind, and the one that you all supported in August sometime, was a vehicle inspection fee, additional $5 inspection fee for every registered vehicle in Cameron County. We chose to up that to $5. The legislation allows you to go up to $10. So that'll provide some funding for us. It's not a lot of money in, the big scheme of the projects that we're looking at, but it'll allow us to continue some of the studies and some of the engineering work that we need to do on projects like the West Loop and the Second Causeway. We also, federal earmarks, hopefully we can try to look at federal earmarks this coming year to see if there's potential. We had an earmark for the FM 509 project this last year, $1 million, or $800,000, so. And then there's public-private partnerships that the Cameron County RMA is gonna be looking at this coming year. One of the things that we've got going is the request for detailed proposals by the two entities that are working on the development of I-69. And hopefully, they're gonna be looking at projects within Cameron County to, provide a revenue stream for building that project. So, we need to meet with them and look at that as well.
And then there's the program that the City of Hidalgo is working on as far as when you get new construction, assessing or using part of the assessed taxes from the new development to go into offset the debt structure based on what it costs to build the new facilities, new roads.
Yeah, the legislature has given us several financial tools to look at.
Like that, similar to that are new, and apparently Hidalgo's the first one to make that offer, and we may need to start looking into some of those types of structures that the legislature's allowed us to have.
It seems that most of those mechanisms that they're offering allow for us to get into debt either as an RMA or as a county to be able to finance projects.
Yeah.
Which
because
takes the monkey off their back.
It does. Of course, they're saying that they don't have any more money in their backpack to do any of this, and if we want it done and usually need it done, we shouldn't be doing it unless we really need it or plan on the future that it's going to create more growth. They're not going to do it for us, apparently.
Yeah,
they don't have any money to do it.
Pretty much the same, you guys have local control, you all decide where you all want your money to go, but there's no money coming down from them.
Well, I think one of the things that, needs to be considered is we set up the RMA structure for financing projects according to how we were told by TxDOT every step of the way, with their blessing every step of the way, including the hiring of every consultant that we've hired that is in the works of developing the projects for us. And all of a sudden, in some cases, we're buying right-of-ways. And all of a sudden, you're saying, stop today because funds are not available. Funds had been available, I mean, I just don't understand how they had this huge shortfall one day. It seems that we need to ask our legislators, and I had a meeting with one today, that, in their interim studies in between sessions, they need to start finding out what allowed this to occur.
And I think one of the interim studies is set up for that purpose,
Right.
because that is a problem.
Right, I mean, we need to know what and where the system failed so that it won't happen again, or where it didn't fail and the money might be in a different,
Floating someplace else,
fund
in another
somewhere.
pot. Should go back to
So if those monies
transportation.
were earmarked for our transportation projects, and there was an option to go into debt, okay, could we not do it with the consideration that when those monies are released or come back, that we would apply those monies to that debt?
Well, that's the risk you take,
That's a very risky, because they can always find some other place to put that money as opposed to putting it back to repay us for what we might do.
Pretty risky.
We had a meeting with Amadeo Science about 3 weeks ago, and he says that the money that they committed to Cameron County is going to be there. The question is when it's going to be there. 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road, maybe more. And so, that puts us in a situation where we're having to figure out how we're going to continue to move our projects along, in a timely fashion, and trying to get them environmentally cleared so that some of these companies and corporations that work on these projects worldwide can, look at possibly financing a project like the Second Causeway. And you touched on the issue, Commissioner, we just lost the chairman of the Transportation Commission, which is probably not probably, but it is a big loss to the Transportation Department at TxDOT. And, it's gonna kind of muddy the water a little bit as far as how things are gonna be done and who to turn to. So we're gonna need a lot of help from our friend, Mr. Sines, and hopefully he can help us out in some of these projects.
Hope, out.
Well, I will tell you that the passing away of Rick Williamson, who, as you all know, was a good friend to us. We got a lot of projects, I remember a meeting that you were gonna go to where you needed, I think, his help, and Commissioner Williamson was a good friend of mine, and I was saddened by his death because, not only was he a good guy, but he really helped South Texas a lot. And he is gonna be missed, and he was a very, very strong voice for TxDOT. Some people disagreed with a lot of his ideas and the way he came across, but he was, all I know is for Cameron County, he did a good job for us, and he will be missed. We just hope that the governor appoints somebody that's just as strong and visionary and good, to us. As a matter of fact, the new director, Mr. Sines, I think, is gonna miss him a lot, because he was one of his strongest supporters and advocates, so, anyway.
And I'll add my 2 cents, Judge. Rick was a good friend of the Valley, and especially of Cameron County, and I know several of us, David, Edna, we've spent hours with him in the past years, working with him, and he always came through on what he promised, and we always produced and delivered what we promised, and we respected each other and were able to do that, and it was a good relationship, and certainly we hope to all have that same type of relationship with whomever comes in to replace him, and I'm sure that there'll be a good replacement, but he is going to be lost, a loss to all of us.
At the last Transportation Commission meeting, we were there, and, everybody was waiting to see what was going to happen, what type of announcement was going to be made in terms of cuts, and Pete was asked to come up to the podium to talk about how Cameron County had put together this legislation to incorporate the fee for vehicles in Cameron County. And so they commended Cameron County for stepping up and trying to find alternative ways to finance, projects. not, like I said, it's not gonna be enough, but at least we get our projects moving. The other thing is, the Rio Grande Valley Partnership is gonna be having a meeting, I believe it's next Wednesday, and you all should have gotten an email. The topic they're gonna be discussing is transportation and whether or not they should work to, see if the governor should call a special session to address transportation, funding, and so that's gonna be on the 16th. We sent you the information, we'll send it again.
Any further comments? That's it.
And we're having our RMA meeting on Thursday, at 1:30 in same place, San Benito, and this is gonna be an issue we're gonna talk about. We've invited our delegation. They'll be there, most of them will be there, they've already responded, so. That's it.
I think probably not at this coming RMA meeting, but at a following RMA meeting, we're gonna have some, very hard decisions to make, as to how to move forward with the projects that we're working on, specifically the West Loop project in Brownsville and the Second Causeway project. Nobody wants their project delayed. TxDOT is telling us you have X amount of dollars between now and the end of August, and we're heading up to Austin tomorrow. In the morning, we'll be meeting with the sheriff and the Commission on Jail Standards on the additional beds to the Carrizales Rucker facility. And then in the afternoon, we'll be meeting with our consultants to try and brainstorm and strategize, see what different sources of funding we can get, see how much we can stretch what TxDOT has given us, and develop a plan of action so that the RMA can move forward and not come to a complete halt on our two projects. We do have some possibilities. One of the applications we've submitted to TxDOT that's also on hold for now, but TxDOT has agreed to move forward at least, from the FAR district to the Austin headquarters office, is the application for the East Loop project, and we had multiple funding sources for that project that we included in the application. So next couple of weeks, the board of directors for the RMA are going to have to make some big decisions, and hopefully we as staff and our consultants can provide good recommendations on how we can move forward. But not sure where this whole TxDOT situation is going to be, but one of our other projects that we're going to be impacted is the expansion of the additional lanes to the Veterans Bridge, because we had planned on using coordinated border infrastructure funds, and we were pretty much ready to go to construction this year, and now we're being told that, it might be, 2010, 2011. So, I think at each day that goes by, we keep getting,
A new delay?
worse news, and so.
Pete.
A worse scenario.
On the expansion of the Veterans Bridge, I've said at lots of meetings where we've had DHS talking about different issues and about the crossings of the bridge and the time, and they want time studies done and all, and they have this idea, which they express very openly, we'll just improve the capacity of the bridge, widen the bridge, like it's something that can be done overnight. And it's not something that can be done overnight, and it takes a lot of money, but maybe they're willing to throw some money in the pot, DHS themselves and ICE, because they're the ones that don't have the ability to clear the people coming across the bridge in a timely manner, and just creating problems with commerce and our livelihoods.
And we will present to you all the first quarter report for the International Bridge System next week, and it doesn't look good.
That'd be nice.
And I can tell you, we've got some serious issues coming up. Starting January the 31st, the Secretary of Homeland Security will start requiring two forms of documentation if you want to come across into the United States. And so now it might be not only your driver's license, but your birth certificate. So guess what? If we waited 2.5 hours during the month of December, it might be longer after January 31st. And at some point, I've asked David to draft a letter that the judge can send, to all our delegation in Washington. At some point, I mean, the government has to get realistic, you know. I don't think any single community between Brownsville and San Diego, wants to compromise our security. But at the same time, you know, we're living in an age of technology that, I mean, somebody has to develop a better system to where we can track, you know, individuals coming into our country, you know, because what the federal government is doing, they are hurting the legitimate trade and travel, and that is hurting our local economy. And if they continue to do what they're doing, it's just going to get worse and worse for the local communities.
It seems that the bridge is kind of like the wrong place to be intercepting illegals, because they don't go through the bridge, they go through other areas.
Go to another area.
You know, I mean, the bridge is probably the safest place to...
But all these issues are going to come up pretty quick in the next couple of weeks, so...
And Pete, you're correct, it does affect our economy, and immediately it affects our local economy because we see it on a daily basis. It will affect, you know, it may take a little longer time, but it will start affecting the economies north of us, all the way to the Canadian border.
Absolutely.
John, I think it's already affecting our economy. I really do. And it'll just get worse.
Thanks, Pete. Anything else, guys?
Motion to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo to acknowledge the county, state, and federal legislative agenda report by Mr. David Garcia and Mr. Pete Sepulveda. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 36, last item on the agenda prior to executive session. Consideration and approval of this amendment and extension commercial lease agreement between Cameron County DA's office and BP Newman to provide offices for Unified Narcotics Intelligence Task Force and White Sands, HIDA, located at 1100 FM 802, Suite 101, Brownsville, Texas, from 1108 through 12/31/08. Anybody have any questions? So moved.
I do have one
You have a question?
Yeah, well, actually...
One time we don't ask anything.
I've
already moved it and
seconded
it. Just sit down, David.
Now you just set yourself up.
Yes,
I know.
But David,
It was going so smoothly, too.
But tell the DA, I didn't ask any questions.
I understand. Now, unfortunately, the agenda item indicates that it's for unit, which is one directive, and another directive called White Sands. We only submitted contracts for unit. That was an error on our part. We should have submitted the documentation for the additional contract. So the only thing that you have reviewed is the first contract, so we'll be coming back next Commissioner's
Well, do you want to go ahead and approve it and then just get that over to us? Or do you
I would
wanna-
like to, subject to legal and the auditor, it's identical, but I would like to do that.
Motion for approval.
Second.
Subject to legal.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion?
Thank you.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Do I hear a motion to go into executive
So
session? Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Gatsa. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. We have one item, item A, confer with Commissioners Court Legal Counsel concerning threatened litigation by the federal government for right of entry to survey and do site evaluations on Cameron County-owned property along the river through the Border Security Infrastructure Project, commonly referred to as the Border Fence, authority to represent Cameron County in said litigation pursuant to Code Section 551.0711A. Second by Commissioner Wood. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are in open session again, and there is one item for action, 23A. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to acknowledge report.
Second.
Moved and second to acknowledge report of legal counsel. Any comments or questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The only other item is a motion for adjournment. Do I have one?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Wood. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.
Okay.